Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, June 8th, so starting tomorrow is E3 streams. We'll see how that goes. We've got a lot of news to cover. We've got a lot of things to do here. I guess I want to tread out 2 victories and see what that gets us. And now we have to play Warlock class cards and win a game with a Mage and Shaman. Tavern Brawl is the Tavern Brawl we've already done. The arena hasn't updated yet, and for its special arena thing. I assume that's what we're going to, how they're implementing that, those time alternate reality update. Otherwise they're adding it to, I suppose, maybe single player, and that would be kind of weird to have like a timed single player expansion. I guess for now all I really need to do is try and win Mage or Shaman. In a ranked play would be nice. Let's get back up to rank 19 if we can make it that far, and then also, you know, get some ranked wins. Let's hit the news and hit it hard, because there's a ton of stuff to clear through. Everything needs to be off my list for tomorrow. Tomorrow's first stream is, I don't even know, it's supposed to be 10 p.m. I believe Pacific. Let me see if I can actually get the time. I think that page is still open on my browser, on my phone.
For Doomhammer, for the Frost Wolves.
I was playing Borderlands 2, and something, and I made more progress there, and I'm glad for that. Borderlands 2 is very weird about not giving you a lot of side quests and instead giving you a bunch of challenges. And there are definitely a lot of challenges in areas that you can miss and not even know there was something you were supposed to do. So trying to be a completionist in the game is definitely not something that they're trying to promote. Instead, they're trying to have it be just a more casual run and gun game. You do eventually have to play the story missions, but you don't really have to do anything else. Let's summon that. But I think that would inherently stop me from getting a second one of those, wouldn't it? But as I was playing Borderlands 2, I remembered that they had said Borderlands 3 is coming out in the Unreal Engine. And then I started to think about it, and this is a little bit tinfoil hatty, but there are 2 instances of Epic, the owners of the Unreal Engine, not really treating their partners and people that use their Unreal Engine well. One instance is PUBG, because regardless of what happened internally, we know for a fact that PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds came out with a Battle Royale game and it was massively popular, and then Epic came out with Fortnite Battle Royale mode really close to the release of that, and competed with their own partners, which is at the very least not something that you normally would want your business partner to do with you. The other story is a lot more he said, she said, with the lawsuit of 2 Human, which Epic won that lawsuit, so inherently, I guess, I believe it was Canadian court sided with Epic. But the claim was that instead of giving support and helping the developers of 2 Human make that a better game. They were working on their own game. So what does that have to do with Borderlands 3? Well, let's look at what we do know about Borderlands 3. We know it's supposed to be on the Unreal Engine 4, which is owned by Epic, and we know that Borderlands 3 is not as far in development as many would like, at least, because most people at this point should have and would have preferred that the game was completely out and available for purchase right now. I don't think I have any elementals in my hand. So it is tinfoil hatty, but I kind of wonder if maybe Borderlands 3 is in development hell because they went to Unreal Engine, and I wouldn't be surprised if it eventually came out and they said, actually, we took it off the Unreal Engine because we couldn't get it to work, and we took it back to our old engine, and that was a major delay. Changing engines in particular. The other thought, the non-Unreal Engine thought, would be that they simply did not have the development going well because of a Duke Nukem Forever like scenario, where because Borderlands 3 has all of this hype to it, there's a desire to make a perfect game when you in a world where you really can't make a perfect game. Still not sitting on any elemental characters. Let's see. And that card will just cost 3 less always. So yeah, that is my tinfoil hat thought, is that we may have some trouble. I guess E3 is going to happen on the weekend, so we may see a lot of things. We also know that Gearbox is releasing a 1v1 game, which is definitely not what I want to play. It feels like it's probably going to be something akin to a something along the lines of a what am I trying to say?
I am one with the candle.
Let's see. This. Let's hit this. And then let's play this. Next battle cry, just turn triggers twice. This reduces an elemental. Jeez, if I just had an elemental to play. Seems like this deck on the HS Replay built for me is specifically designed around reducing the cost of elementals. That's an elemental, I guess I'll play that. Yeah, it could definitely be a Duke Nukem Forever scenario, and they're just in development hell for a completely different reason, but that is one theory. But talking about theories really is not the time to do that. So I wanted to look up the time. The E3, the EA E3 press conference is 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, or 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, or 6:30 p.m. British Standard BST, I guess that's British Standard Time, or 3:30 a.m. English Asian AEST, which I guess would be Asian English time. Wait, no, that's when the IGN pre-show is going to happen. The actual conference is going to start at 11 a.m. Pacific time, or 2 p.m. Eastern time. Since I'm in Central time, that means 1 p.m. Central Time, unless I'm doing the math wrong there. I'll probably be awake and just can run in and start streaming. I might be half asleep in that whole process, certainly. I got announcements of this live stream today, thank goodness. So, notifications from YouTube, rare and rare these days, but alright. So, next battle cry I play, reduce the cost of an elemental, and play this. And play that. So, yeah. I'll probably get EA stream going. If I drop the ball, I really don't care. In general, I don't care if I actually see any of the EA things. It's just probably a good thing to do. Although, I certainly have an argument here. One of the biggest stories of today is just how many hateful pro-censorship people are in mainstream video game media. Hateful is editorializing, it might not be a super accurate description, but I kind of want to stand by it. So a lot of very salty people who wanted Steam to censor games came out against Valve. Now the good news is, for the most part, I didn't see most of those messages directly, so I've eliminated those voices, like Polygon, from any way of entering my I guess realm of information gathering. But secondhand, I certainly saw a lot of people say that Rock Paper Shotgun is the least was the one people that I still kind of follow that had a pretty hateful response. I guess I'm just gonna stick with calling it hateful. A very pro-censorship response, not respecting that people have different opinions and people can do things differently, not caring about freedom of speech. You're a Gamer was another one, and that's no surprise that the British and European people would be pro-censorship and anti-free speech, just because they've been socialized and trained to that for quite a while. So yeah, we'll get into more of that story later, but that is certainly I'm happy that I've eliminated most of those people from my Twitter feed where I get my news, and mostly I've just moved almost all my news into direct information just by the What's on Steam Twitter feed, and looking at games myself as they come out instead of getting industry news, which is important. So my point there in introducing this is that more and more mainstream video game media is appearing to me, and I think I'm probably very late to the party. I think it's appearing to a lot of people as out of touch and irrelevant and not even in line with gamers. We see some very direct examples of that when they're calling all gamers toxic and attacking them. But with that being more and more of a realization, there is also more and more of a realization that things like E3 are going to get spread out further and further in a way to stop catering to the video game media and instead for the companies to just directly put out their message. And there's still a little bit of an issue of whether the video game companies are bigger problems than the video game reporters, but that is an issue for itself. Inherently, what Valve said was that if a company wants to censor itself and not put out certain content, they're certainly free to do so. And they were always free to censor themselves. The only thing now is Valve is not going to add a second layer of censorship. And I'm not sure censoring yourself is a valid thing to say, because I don't know if that really falls under the definition of censorship then, if you're holding back your own thoughts and ideas.
I told you so.
It also shows kind of a love for totalitarianism, which I don't think calling the mainstream video game media having a love for fascism, and sometimes fascism and totalitarianism gets over misused or inappropriately used. But certainly the mainstream video game media wants to be in total control and wants to be able to have a bully pulpit to force games into non-existence, which is really ridiculous, because they could simply just not cover the games. But we'll get into that more, and I've got all my news in different orders, so I don't want to get into too much of a rant right on top of this stream, because we'll get back to it. PC Gamer, after basically bashing the mainstream video game media for 20 minutes, PC Gamer has an article, Just Cause 4 confirmed thanks to a an early Steam advertisement. Just Cause 3, I think it's been a long time since that game came out, and I'm not sure there's enough room between Assassin's Creed and Far Cry for there to be a Just Cause game that comes out and really succeeds. I'm not sure the Just Cause series was ever particularly successful in the first place. I'm very unfamiliar with the series, certainly. Moving on, Eurogamer, the game developer, is telling their story of Eurogamer has an article called "The Game Developers Telling This Story of Nicaragua's Deadly Crackdown on Protests." Quote, "We grew tired of corruption and repression." This is an article that is definitely coming out at the wrong time. Otherwise I would read it, but E3 is happening. I also have no knowledge on what is really going on in Nicaragua. Are they literally killing protesters and every single peaceful protester, or what? I know in the United States you can certainly say that sometimes when the police crack down on protests in the United States, you could certainly spin that to say police are cracking down on protesters, but also I know in the United States that we've had like the Million Woman March a few years ago, and all kinds of protests happen all the time. That being said, personally, I would never want to be involved or near any protests, because police do have this process they call kettling, where they just round up everybody and arrest everybody, and the local police, frankly, are cracking down on protesters as much as they would crack down on and do crack down on lots and lots of things, pretty much anything they can get away with. It's more an issue of a lack of the federal government controlling the local government with any kind of authority. We do have a federal State Department that's supposed to investigate and prosecute police abuses, but it is an incredibly corrupt system that is heavily biased to protect the police in the United States. It's pretty much all there is to it. Sadly, this article is just in the wrong place, and the reason this article probably came out is because everybody is preparing for E3. So E3 becomes this waste of everybody's time. I think I need to play Warlock cards today, where for the previous week, instead of reporting real news, you get a lot of these written reviews that could have been written or released at any point. On the other hand, this is probably a good journalism, something that you don't see very often in video games, and the fact that somebody went and asked questions and did an interview instead of just taking a press release and releasing the press release to sell a game. Let's see, we've got a game on Steam called Idle Heist. It doesn't sound that good. It says it's an action indie strategy free to play. And then it's showing a trailer of a lot of very low polygon generic characters, and yeah, it's literally an idle game built around the concept of robbing a bank, and you hire more crew members, 25 plus crew members, and you upgrade them. Nothing there. It's rated 50% of 30 users positive. Moving forward, we need to run through all these. I haven't gone through the games and filtered them, and for the most part I'm not doing too much of that usually ever, but it would probably have benefited me to do it more often. It's just a matter of, do I prefer to start streaming somewhere closer towards the time I'd like to start streaming, which is generally 4, even though I think the rules say 5. This is taking forever. Next game we have is called Amora, but it's all written in either, I guess it's written in Portuguese Brazil is the description, although it claims it has English full audio and subtitles. Inherently, I don't think it, with all the trailers, I don't think it helps that they're all written in Portuguese. But also this is suffering from dark screenshot syndrome, so I have no idea what this game is. Looks like it might be some limited horror RPG maker game. It says down here, English language not supported. Interesting. Well, then why does it say that it's full audio and subtitles in English? Then, well, moving on. Next game we have is called Scud Frenzy. It's an action indie platformer. Graphics don't look too bad. Seems like it's kind of a more zoomed in Terraria where you're running around jumping and shooting things. It seems like it is pretty heavily influenced by maybe Smash TV. They're just destroying everything in the area, and see, this game is $5.99. That seems too expensive. It has 2 positive, no negative reviews, which doesn't mean anything. This game has a little bit of an 8-bit, 16-bit pixel graphics. I don't even know if I'd call it 16-bit. Maybe I should just start adapting pixel graphics in general. Look, but it also is very just full of things on every single screen. Even the menu has column after column after column. It's the word frenzy seems to be about right, and they say it's an 8-directional shooter about destruction, chaos, and rewards and high scores.
So many possibilities.
I think you would have trouble keeping your eyes focused looking at a game like this. Now this is from a developer who's made 3 other games that are rated positively, but even at that it still doesn't catch my eye. It is possible to make a really bright and cluttered environment, and that too can cause me to not be interested in the game. I'm not always just looking for the bright shiny anime games. Gamasutra has an article. Australian court ruling could hold YouTube liable for copyright infringing content. This is interesting because if Australia tried this, YouTube's only response would be to just block all of YouTube in Australia. And if Australia tried to, I don't know, fine YouTube or Google in general for things happening outside of Australia, which is inherently what the TPP wanted to do, is create this world court in which one country can sue one company, or one country can sue for copyright infringement over content that may not even be copyrighted at all in another country, because there is definitely regions of dispute on who owns the copyright to what and where, and China in particular is, if given the opportunity, is going to try and claim that all the Chinese companies own the copyright on everything, where the truth of the matter is pretty obvious that Chinese companies have been copying and making cheap Chinese knockoffs of other things. An example is like Lepin is the Chinese ripoff of Lego, and if there was TPP enabled, there is a chance where China would go, Lego, the Denmark-based company that's been around forever and everybody knows, was actually in violation of Lepin's copyright, and therefore Lego had to pay them, which that's the corporate warfare that's going on around the world. Inherently, also, it could be that all of Google would pull out all of its services from Australia and just not do any business in Australia. I don't think YouTube and Google are going to fall for the same thing that Australia did to Steam. And notice that it was only a little while ago that they're trying to fine Steam for a bunch of things that probably was Steam's fault, frankly. I imagine Steam should have had better lawyers and better compliance to the Australian laws. Let's see. The Hollywood Reporter notes that in its current form the decision is not legally binding, but if it is upheld in the court's final ruling, this decision could potentially impact on how the major content platform operates in European countries. And so this could be like all of... Oh, this is not Australia, this is Austrian. Oh man, I've been reading this wrong. So it's an Austrian court, and that's the European Union, and the European Union hates YouTube and Google even more than I think Australia does. Frankly, I don't even know if Australia does have anything like. And now that I'm reading the right word, it makes a little bit more sense that yes, the EU has been trying to ruin Google for a long time, mostly because the politicians are trying to push a pro-censorship agenda. Basically, it's a very long and complicated situation, but the right to be forgotten laws that are pushed by Europe were only written, and the GDPR were only written so that politicians could have scandals and negative press about them removed from the internet, so that they could have stronger control over their own citizens and their countries. Inherently, it's just to try and create more totalitarian states, and this is where this is the problem with having Germans who think basically the same way as they did back in World War II. They still think the same way in charge of the European Union. But most of Europe, I don't think, really celebrates or cherishes freedom as much as the United States does. Arguably, the United States cherishes freedom a little bit too much, but at the very least, we are a lot further away from becoming like totalitarian Orwellian states that censor everything and such. Moving on, though, I guess, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Google or YouTube eventually just straight up leaves all of Europe.
I wonder.
But Susan Wojcicki, I also imagine, would try to pander as much as possible.
As you command.
Moving on, there's a game called Mobile Forces on Steam. It's looks like an asset flip first-person shooter game. 20% off for $3.19. Yeah, it just looks like a CS:GO mod or something. It's pretty bad. So we'll close that. Friendly demon +2/+2. And play this. And the turn.
Immortality.
PC Gamer has an article in something that really shouldn't have been a surprise. Crackdown 3 delay has been confirmed by Microsoft, due in 2019. After denying rumors of the game's cancellation, it's now due next year. Apparently Microsoft denied rumors of its cancellation last week. Microsoft has now confirmed the incoming action game is delayed till February 2019. There almost certainly has been a major shift within the same engine, if not a complete new engine shift, with Crackdown 3, because they were trying to do these cloud controlled streaming gaming, and that's kind of what Crackdown has just turned into, is a excuse to continue developing technology for streaming games and having a very fast-paced action experience. There is also, I think, a slight problem with Crackdown 3 because it is, I think, in part supposed to be like the new Halo, and it's not succeeding as the new Halo. Titanfall was also supposed to be another system seller. It didn't really succeed. Destiny was also supposed to be a system seller. It's not doing so hot either. So Microsoft is suffering from not having the system sellers it wanted to have. And yeah, that certainly
Mushroom power.
isn't helping Microsoft anyway. Almost, I would say it's probably a fine way things have worked out though, because let's not forget that Microsoft wanted like always online DRM and some crazy things in its in the Xbox One when it came out, and if Microsoft turned into the main game company and there was a lot less competition with the PlayStation, and there was literally basically no competition with the Switch, then Microsoft would have definitely maintained that always online DRM stance for the Xbox One. And so I don't want PlayStation to win. I don't want Microsoft to win. I would prefer to see Nintendo get on equal level with the Microsoft, with the Xbox and the PlayStation, so that we have a good industry that's actually competing with each other, and hopefully in that competition there is a slowing of the increase of price of games. There's a slowing of the adding of bad features and negative things like always online DRM to games. At best, however, if I'm going to be honest, it is just going to be a slowing. It's not going to be it's not going to be a 100% guaranteed stopping or reversing of it. The other issue is Crackdown 2. After Crackdown 1, you really had nowhere to go with Crackdown. The thing you should have done is gone to a completely different city. The first city was in this, like, islands, basically with a lot of water around. So the idea of moving to, I was thinking maybe a desert area instead, and just having 3 different gang leaders, because that's what the first game was you gang leaders that you were taking out as this kind of RoboCop, Super Cop. But then the second game added in zombies and the day-night cycle that didn't need to exist, and I don't know what you do with the third game. You probably should just go back to the original concept, 3 gang members and 3 gangs, and take them out with missions. And it seems, I was saying this while I was playing Borderlands 2, that most developers get terrified with the third in your trilogy games. They get so scared and they take so much time to develop it. Crackdown 3 is a great example of that. They should have just, you know, I don't want to say pooped out the game, but they basically should have pooped out the game. They should have put it out 2 years, guaranteed. If it has problems, fine. It doesn't have to be any better than Crackdown 2. It can just, ideally it would be slightly better than Crackdown 2. And that would be it. But everybody goes, well, no, this has to be our trilogy end piece, and it's like writing stories. I always, when I was thinking up or writing stories, I always had trouble finishing them because you fall in love with your work. So it's best to just finish them quickly and move on to the next thing. Much like it would be best for me to move on to the next story, because I'm not moving very fast here. Gamma Sutra has an article, Supercell invests $5 million into Redemption Games, making its first U.S. investment. So Supercell, makers of Clash Royale, game I play on my phone, has picked up the minority stake in the California-based Redemption Games. Let's see, Redemption Games. Let's see. seems to have just made some unremarkable cell phone games. Yeah, not much of an article. Gamma Sutra talking about the finances of the game industry every now and then, and I'm never really too interested in it. Guess I should have played this first. Next game we have on Steam is called Warlock Tower Defense. It looks like garbage. It's 25% off for $2.24. Why you would buy any game right now when the summer sale is only about a week away would be very odd, unless you're just buying games every week. The only things I would say that you might want to buy right now is things that are on sale. It's kind of unlikely that something that's on a weekend sale or whatever is also going to be even more discounted than the summer sale. And certainly some main AAA developers have done things like that, where things, I think like Deus Ex Mankind Divided was on sale the week before at one of Steam's big sales, and then it wasn't on sale at all during the sale. Next game we have on Steam is called Roundways, and it's got an animation to it, and it seems like what they're doing is turning roads into circles and
so many possibilities.
Stopping collisions then? Like, this is like a full animated thing. And apparently you're helping aliens abduct... You're helping aliens abduct cars? So, I think the idea is to get everybody on one circle in the weird puzzle. See, this game is $1.99. I kind of think I like it. It says it's 30 chapters with 85 highly replayable levels, 7-second objective, type ambulance, maxed out police, thief, pizza delivery, 21 different themed environments, 24 cars, 18 playable, 6 special. Story progress shown by painted illustrations. So this does look like an interesting game, and it seems like an indie developer who hasn't made anything else, and an indie publisher who apparently has done nothing else. But I think I will keep an eye on Roundways. Let's do this. And what am I gonna do here?
Chill out.
We have a game called Talos VR on Steam. It looks like it is a mech fighter in VR, so you're in a walking machine robot, and you're fighting each other. The fact that it's not one of the recognizable names or brands of mechs, shows, and series kind of sucks, certainly. Let's see. Let's keep on attacking. Attacking. The game is $2.99, and at that price for the premium you usually play for a Steam VR game. That's probably a pretty good deal for Talos VR. It looks good. It's single player only, so you're just going to be fighting against robots, but like, it looks good. It's the only game from this developer, but from what it's showing me, and for its price, it's a decent experience that may only be an hour long. You may get bored of it, certainly, pretty quickly.
Who dares summon me?
I played that wrong. I could have attacked with this, then put this here. I guess it doesn't matter. Next we have a game called Heroes Arena, which is pixel graphics in a dungeon crawler game. It looks like garbage. It's 10% off for $1.79. They're saying it's version 0.01 of Heroes Arena. Getting a nice win streak here. I don't want to break the win streak. There's really nothing wrong with this game, Heroes Arena. It's just so many other games have done the same thing better. That this does not stand up to the competition. It's from a developer who's not made any other games that have been rated higher than mixed. And yeah, that's kind of where I think Heroes Arena would fall too. At best, it's going to be mixed ratings. Let's see. Let's trade these. Next game we have on Steam is called Virus. It says it's an early access VR game. It seems like it's just an asset flip, basically. Early access 20% off for $7.99. It seems to have nothing really to do with Virus, and instead it's just a bunch of hopping zombies that are moving towards you. Or hopping to you. So yeah, I'm gonna close Virus because there's nothing there. PC Gamer has another goal. Mad Max developer Avalanche is working on an open world shooter set in 1980s Sweden. Generation Zero is the name of it. It's a throwback tale on humanity's fight against a machine uprising. The announcement trailer is already out. More and more, like I was saying earlier, announcements are coming out spread around E3. I think at a certain point people are just going to have to spread out announcements around the entire year. There's definitely droughts in January and February where you could just announce a game with a trailer and still have the game released in at the same time you were going to release it anyways, but at least get some better press and more attention for your game. There definitely have been weeks where we had nothing to talk about. I think a big change needs to happen on how advertising companies are budgeted and how they work, because that's what's going on here. Is a company is paying an advertisement company and giving that advertisement company the deadline of E3, where it probably would be smarter if companies, video game companies, hired advertisement companies year-round and says, you decide when the best time is to announce this game and put out this trailer and advertise this, and you do the market research and you see when our most effective time to talk about games is, because the truth is, by the time E3 finishes, we're going to be pretty burned out on games, and there will be just complete and total announcements that that people will have not heard or will have been forgotten. Let's see. Avalanche Studio is also working on Rage 2, but we assume that was the Mad Max continuation of the So yeah, them working on another game is a little odd, but not crazy. Let's keep on playing. Gamatsu has an article, Record of the Grand Crest War. Game demo launches June 14th in Japan. Record of the Grand Crest War, I believe, is the sequel to the Record of the Lotus War series, and there's, I suppose, no indication. This is a real short article. No indication that it's coming to the West, but better indications that more games in general, Japanese games in particular, are going to come to the West. TechRaptor has an article, classic arcade game Monkey King Master of the Clouds is coming to PC and consoles. This is the Western version of the Japanese arcade game known as Chuka Taisen, C-H-U-K-A space T-A-I-S-E-N. It's a real old, like, NES Famicom looking graphics game, and if it was an arcade game, I assume it is in that order. You're playing as the Monkey King, it seems, in a bullet hell shooter. So you're flying on Nimbus the Cloud and shooting out fireballs. I could certainly see why the very popular niche of people who play bullet hell shooter games would want to play that game just for nostalgia's sake alone. This is another one of those articles that probably is pretty timed badly. It would come out in summer of 2018 for PC, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. It's also an article that I would put more in the lines of what PC Gamer does, where there's no actual actionable information here. There's no exact date, there's no Steam link, there's the only thing you can do is go to the official website, and I'd never even heard of this game, so it's not so much a classic in the West that it came across my knowledge. TechRaptor has another article, Nicholas announces Remy Lore, a co-op hack and slash roguelite. Nicholas is a slightly growing developer, kind of, I'd put it in line of something similar to Digital Devolver, which certainly Digital Devolver probably would have played a part in the Steam censorship issue too, with their game Genital Jousting. That in a weird way, that bigger publisher would have caused a lot of fuss if their games got Nicholas, however, is the publisher behind Cave Story, 1001 Spikes. This game, Remy Lore, let's watch the trailer. It looks like an isometric kind of hack and slash, probably sort of like a dungeon crawler. It's got a combo bar and a health bar and a mana bar. In a weird way, I guess this is also what the Warriors series is. Dynasty Warriors is also a hack and slash game. So this is an attempt at making a warrior style game. I guess the thing that wouldn't make this like a warrior style game is the fact that there's not a lot of enemies on the screen. Instead, it's actually rather big robots that you're fighting and trying to knock off the edge. It also feels somewhat reminiscent of the game Bastion, where a lot of the platforms are floating in the sky. So again, this is like a PC Gamer type article where there's nothing actionable here. It says players will make use of over 200 different weapons. Did we play all the cards we needed? Yes, we did. I needed my timer. Like, how much time do I have left on my timer? Wow. Seriously? No. 2 minutes. Yeah. I was thinking to myself, it's like, apparently the timer froze. So, we've got a couple minutes here. Let's, instead of playing one more game since the streak is broken, let's do something a little weird and spend a couple minutes, I don't know if this is a smart move or not, just talking about news and trying to go through this. TechRaptor has THQ Nordic's Titan Quest is coming to the Nintendo Switch. I don't think there's anything else you really need to do about that. Switch version will be out July 31st. You can pre-order the Switch version on THQ Nordic's site. So the old game Titan Quest is getting re-released somewhere else. Gematsu has an article, Overkill's The Walking Dead Heather trailer. This is not the Telltale Walking Dead series, which has, I believe, a release date, although I can't tell you what it is, for the final season of that Walking Dead series. But it certainly, I'm certainly kind of glad that Telltale will be done with The Walking Dead, and some other game company can try to make a good version of this. This trailer for Overkill's Walking Dead looks very realistic, very good looking, but this is very much a cinematic trailer also. So I want to know what the actual gameplay looks like, and I'm not sure. I just skipped ahead, and apparently the girl Heather pushed another girl through the glass window of like a freezer and stabbed her in the throat. And now the main character Heather in this trailer is getting kicked to death by this big guy. So the idea here is that this is going to be super violent, super brutal. I guess that's what you want with the Walking Dead series. There is definitely an issue with the fact that there's less and less interest less and less interest as far as The Walking Dead goes. Like, Heather came back, she wasn't completely dead, and she shot a flare down the alley with the two guys and then locked them in the alley and is saying something nasty about him. So the flare is getting him, letting the zombies attack them. So Heather here is not shown as a good girl or a bad girl. She's well, everybody's kind of bad in Walking Dead. So Overkill's The Walking Dead happens fall 2018. Looks like it might be an interesting thing. I really need to see some gameplay, and this almost certainly will be the last Walking Dead series anybody will license, because frankly, it's amazing that that comic book, that manga, even made it as far as it has. The fact that AMC picked it up and made one good season, in my opinion, and then stretched it out into what feels like now they're in the 10th or 11th season. It probably isn't. It's probably somewhere closer to the 6th or 7th at most. But yeah, it really is just a misery simulator, and I'm not sure you really need to license The Walking Dead to make a zombie game. Like, you could just learn from that concept, not have the words The Walking Dead in the title, and just have a zombie game, which plenty of those come out. And then for our last bit of articles, Tech Raptor, the Castlevania Netflix series has a 3rd season in development, which is good. The 2nd season, though, hasn't even come out. And so I'm looking for some feedback here, now that that was about 4 minutes of me just sitting and talking about news. Does that work alright? Is that something I can do where I could just focus for maybe a few minutes at the end of every stream? I know I'm always rushing at the end of a stream in total to go through my Twitter and look at everything, and this is probably not helping that in any way. Honestly, it probably doesn't work that way. Well, I think I probably would have been better to have been playing there. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description. And if you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam or gift me a gift card. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.